So hello all, and the Indian Walkability Correspondents. We are here trying to do a presentation of our own places, the places that we live, as it's very evident. India is made up of a lot of different cultures and languages and places, spaces. So here we are showcasing our own spaces, the daily surroundings that we face. Starting it off is our IIT, I mean, it's our correspondent from IIT Kharagpur, Rituparna Das. She has amazing pictures and a lot to share about her. So here we go, Ritu.
Thank you, Nancy. So I'll be telling you a little bit about my place today, like how walkability is in my town. So I am currently pursuing my PhD from School of Infrastructure Design, and I'll be happy to share about my place. So Kharagpur city is an important railway junction in the eastern region of India, and this is the small place where I am currently studying an entire this thing country. And if I see this map, this is my institute. So this is where I am currently studying right now, and this institute is started in 1957, so it has a pretty old history of its own. So coming to the main city part, I'll say, since if we see this academic part, if we consider, it's very different from rest of the city. So in first I'll talk a little bit about the city. So this is how the city is. The cityscape is I like to say, where we see almost all modes of transport here. We have bicycles here, we have totos. These are the small electric vehicles which we use, and predominant and several cases we'll see two privatized two-wheelers is being used for commute, like bicycles. It can be motorized vehicles. It's all up to the socioeconomic level one belongs to. So this is a typical view which we have outside, I'll say, the Kharagpur railway station. So this is the view outside Kharagpur railway station, which we see over, and like we have a foot over bridge, and we can see like mainly like the crowd is relatively less since it is a small town, although it's a very important junction. And right outside the railway station, we have a cycle and motorcycle stand, like where we can park. Like if somebody is working like in a place like Kolkata, he or she might just park their two-wheelers here. They might just board the train, again come back in the evening, and again go head home for using their vehicles. So this is the scene which we see outside the school. So since the children are often commuted by the like they are escorted by the parents, I'll say, the like parents, the concern of safety is a little bit high in this region. I'll say not that high, but still it is there. So, and sometimes the schools in here, the parents, they come and they can interact also. It's like a place for social interaction as well, the school area. So next, if we see, so this is a small video, typical scene which we see outside Kharagpur city. Like we can see the kids, everyone, like there's a huge rush during school hours. And this is when I was heading back to my campus. So this is the view which we see near the bus stand, near the railway station. So we can see like people, like we see almost all modes of transport here. We have these small auto rickshaws, which is very common in India. We can see people owning cycles also, and they are all a huge percentage, they walk in this area. So this again is the different modes in the same street which we see, although the condition of the street is not very good, but yes, like it is pretty diverse set of commutes which we see here right outside the railway station. So this is again a video which I'm playing right now. So we'll see all modes. think, and I'll move forward. This is the rickshaw. So moving forward to my campus, which is very different from what we see the city, from very different from the cityscape. This is my campus. This is the very famous museum which we have, the Nehru Museum, which used to be the detention camp as well during pre-independence era. So this is a typical road which we have inside the campus, pretty well maintained. We have designated footpaths, like we have strict signages, like where we are not supposed to um, go for on-street parking. And the campus is also pretty green, I'll say. It's pretty well maintained. So this is a common area, like small green patch which we have within the campus. This is there are multiple number of green patches within the campus and huge number of trees which give relief during summers. So this is a typical cycle lane which we have. This is the footpath and this is the main road. So everything is very much segregated. Although we see like during very less peak hours of traffic, so even the cycle track is not used that well, but still it's pretty safe, I'll say, inside the campus. Like the modes, they shared the spaces quite sensibly. And this is another view inside my campus where we can see this is a typical cycle track, and we have a small boulder here so that the four-wheelers cannot enter the cycle track. And we have a very nice pedestrian footpath as well. We have this basic amenities which is essential, the which we often tend to ignore, the waste bins, I feel. That is also available at various intervals. So these are the seating areas which we have where people can always sit and relax while taking walks inside the campus. And this is a mini roundabout which we have. And this is sort of a landmark inside the campus where like every campus, they have their very specific spots where like people can go and they can, that is how we identify a space. So this is like one of the famous landmark which we have inside our campus. So this is a pretty big field which we have, like we have almost 2 football fields, 1 cricket field. So this is where children, students and everyone can go and spend good amount of time. Like if not like until and unless we are using it for some sports activity, like we will always see small kids also coming and playing. Even the people from surrounding neighborhood outside the campus, even they can come and avail these facilities inside the campus. So this is a small auditorium where we'll have all cultural events. This is again Adda. Adda is a very common Bengali word, I'll say, which means like where we can just sit together and we can relax. This is not a typical Adda we have in shopping malls. It's a very much open to nature space. This came up very recently, and this is also pretty nice place actually to sit, to chill. And even during like especially it's very popular, especially among the students, where they can, where we come, we'll sit with our friends, we'll talk. So this is another view which we have. And this is it. Thank you. So cycle, yes, it is the most popular mode which we have inside the campus while commuting within the campus and also outside the campus. So this is a pretty old picture during my master's program where we used to venture outside the campus and go to nearby places. Okay, I think this is it, Nancy, from my end.
Thank you, Rituparna. This is so amazing to have a peek into your campus. Although your campus is quite hard to get into, other generally.
You're
Right?
most free to come. I'll be happy to host you.
Yeah. Lovely. I'll have to take you up on this, someday. So thanks, Rituparna. And I think Gautam Merwan from Chennai has a few pics to share and a few thoughts, insights about Chennai. He has very strong opinions about traffic there. So I
I have
welcome
very
Gautam here.
strong feelings. Yes, thank you, Nancy. I think my deck looks quite different. I tried to just take a small anecdote of my walkability experience here, and I'm just going to walk you through that. And what I've done is I'm a designer, trying to join this conversation. So what I've tried to do is to call out in terms of UX principles, exactly how the walkability experience is failing, or in the very few instances, maybe doing a good job. So let me share my screen. All right, I hope you can see my screen. There's a small map to just provide a little bit of context. So I live in a southern suburb of Chennai. It's pretty close to and slightly south of the IIT campus within the city. And it is kind of the end of a large part of development. And from this place, which is called Velachery, there is, mainstream highways connecting other southern, huge suburb developments to the rest of Chennai. So a lot of that traffic flows through Velachery. This is where I live. It's a small dead end street. So it's actually a pretty peaceful colony. And nonetheless, there is still a bit of issue that I face even here. My house is right next to one of the public transit systems, particularly a large terminus of the MRTS system that we have here. So this is the Velachery railway station. And there is a major bus terminus also in Velachery, and that happens to be on the other end of this road. So between the bus terminus and the railway terminus is where this whole experience is going to go down. As you can see, it's about 500 meters to a mall which is near my house, and it's the experience of trying to have an evening walk to go get some chai and some snacks, and to quote unquote enjoy life. But I will demonstrate why, even though it's so close and it should be very obviously reachable. I've only been there once, and that is this time that I went specifically for documenting this experience. Most of the time I have the food delivered to my home. It's not very eco-friendly as an option, but this it hasn't been worth dealing with for me. But I would be curious to hear your thoughts and see if maybe I'm missing something here. So anyway, this journey starts out in my street. This is me standing in my street looking out towards the rest of the main road. It's a mixed use street. Obviously, there's no particular footpath or demarcations or anything. Being that it's a dead end street, I would have expected there to be a little more chill in my street. But even in this street, I've witnessed and experienced myself motorists coming and honking people who are walking off of the road, and that's just, it's baffling to me that that's allowed to happen. But yeah, so this is you can also follow along in the map exactly where we are with the turquoise dot. But yeah, this is me kind of just getting to towards the main road. This is a bit of a feeder road that connects to the railway station. And as you can see, the road itself is all over the place. But more importantly, I think I kind of cut it off. But there's a huge wall here that's been built. It's about 5 or 6 feet tall. So any traffic that would want to be coming in from that road and turning into the street that I'm in doesn't have any opportunity to see me before they make that turn. So it's very dangerous for a pedestrian that a motorist might just suddenly swerve into the lane. And likewise, if I'm trying to get out, there's no real way for me to know if there's motorists coming or not. So that's why I would say that the aspect of forgivability or forgiveness is very, very low. Now we've taken a right turn and we're heading towards the mall area. As you can see, it looks like a pretty small road, but there are huge city buses that also fly through this road. A whole bunch of motor traffic, and people are just kind of walking in whatever space is remaining after the motorists take over the road. And I don't think lack of space is the issue. It's just lack of some level of design demarcation that might make life better for everybody. There's some random trees that have been planted here. I don't really know how that ties in with the wall being so close. Everything is just built with, I think, a whiff of an intention. And we start facing the problems of all of this poor consideration down the road instead of immediately. But yeah, so now we've reached a small intersection, which is actually becoming much bigger of an intersection, because this particular road that you would take if you took a right, it didn't used to connect to anywhere, but very recently they have finished connecting that road to be able to bypass a bit of this whole area of Velachery towards the IT parks, which are available in the other part of the city. So there's going to be a whole lot more traffic flowing through this particular junction. And as you can see, the road that was, whatever meters wide, I'm sorry, I didn't measure that, but it suddenly becomes about 40% thinner. And there's no real explanation for that. Nobody fully knows whether this part of the road is only a one way meant for traffic coming from the other end, or if other people are allowed to go into it. And for pedestrians, you have to navigate all of the confusion that motorists themselves are going through. And there's a small table where someone is selling flowers right at the corner where that road is getting narrow. And so there's going to be people standing around trying to haggle and make a deal. And all of this, there's a street food cart here, but I don't think it's actively functional. But yeah, there's all sorts of activity that seems to be allowed to happen. And it just increases the chaos, in my opinion. So here we are moving a little forward. There is a huge shopping complex on the right. And again, this road, it's not small, but just there is no hierarchy of needs, let's call it that. There is no hierarchy as to what should happen where, or who should take precedence in which part of the road. So as you can see, there is traffic flowing through. There is also traffic that's going in the other direction. I'm not sure if it's a one way or not. I don't think anybody knows that. But because there's a shopping area here, cars do tend to swerve swiftly to the left and stop. For example, here's an Uber dropping someone off. Here's an auto looking to pick someone up. So that auto at some point is going to then swerve to the right. And so it's a maze that you just kind of have to find your way through. It's not very forgiving, and signal to noise ratio is something that I called out here because I feel like there is no signal only. It's all noise. There is no signal that an auto is allowed to stop here. There's no signal that here is where I expect people to walk. It's just road. And I think this is the case with much of the city, and I'm assuming much of the country. So again, now we've walked a little closer towards the mall, and this is where this feeder road is now meeting the actual main road where a lot of the traffic is going towards the other suburbs of Chennai. And as you can see, we are walking against traffic, and there is also huge construction. There's a construction happening there, and there's huge trucks which are related to that construction and absolutely unrelated to anybody or anything else on the road. So one thing that I would call out is, again, there's a lack of enforcement in India, and this is a common problem. But what that means is that you always have people driving or going in the wrong way. So it's hard enough when you know that traffic is coming from one direction because there still isn't dedicated space for walking. But it's even harder, I feel, when you don't even know where the traffic is going to come from. So as you can see, these people are just slowly making their way through, but even a slight miscalculation or a slight misstep could be very, very fatal on this road. And these are things that I've never articulated in this way, even to myself. Applying this set of UX principles as a lens allowed me to realize all the things that I had sort of just grown to accept by virtue of having lived here in these kind of circumstances for so long. But obviously, hearing about walkability experiences abroad and in other places where it's done slightly better, maybe not excellent, this pales in comparison. So here we are, just moving slightly ahead. So again, size is actually huge. There is some sort of a footpath here, and the distance between this footpath and the median of this road is massive. I'm sure there could be like 5 or 6 car lanes easily fit between that. And yet, even the footpath exists only for this small stretch in front of this commercial establishment, and then it just kind of vanishes. There's other things kept on the footpath, so there's no point in trying to progress ahead on it. So as you can see, everybody is walking what seems to be almost the middle of the section between the footpath and the median. And there's just, I don't even know what to call it. It's just mess, it's dirt, it's dust, it's unkept space basically to the right of the road. And we're still walking against traffic. Okay, so here's a city bus, and that's going to come up next. This is the bus stop, and this is the city bus. And well, as you can see, there's going to be a whole bunch of people standing again, pretty much in the middle of the road. The bus is also, instead of swerving all the way towards the bus stop and stopping in front of that, they are lazy enough or careless enough to just stop right in the middle of the road. So traffic also gets bothered from behind. Sometimes because the buses are not even at the side of the road, traffic ends up um, trying to overtake the bus from the pedestrian side. And so all of these people who are waiting here, just trying to get into the bus and go home, there's a lot that they have to deal with. But more shockingly, I'm not sure if you can tell already, but there is a small car and a scooter who are very diligently trying to make their way in the wrong way through this mess of people, against this city bus, against all of this, towards the same mall that I am also heading towards. So here's where our end destination is. You can finally see it. And again, there's an auto just waiting to pick up some passengers, and he's also just smack dab in the middle of the road with yet another car facing the wrong direction. I can only imagine that they're also trying to go somewhere. um, this is within 300 meters of my house. So fine, we're finally at the bus stop, and as you can tell, this is the whole crowd of people, all of whom are waiting for a bus, none of whom are actually using the bus stop. One of them is lit, one of them isn't. And this bus stop space also happens to be the space where there technically is a footpath, but again, the bus stop has been built on it, and it is poorly lit, and it is not clean. So there is no logical reason why anybody would actually walk here. And so everybody who is walking and using this space. And we have a motorist, a very brave, and I don't know what to call it, a very stupid car who's trying to go past all of this nonsense towards the mall. So I finally reached the entrance of the mall. There's one of two ways that I can make it to the place that I want to go. This is Chai Kings. This is where I was wanted to go to get my chai and snacks. Technically, again, there is a little bit of stretch of footpath here, and I can enter it, but it's not really clear that I can. So these poles have a very thin metallic wire that's strung along between the poles. I don't know why you would try to keep someone uh, between this area and this area, why you would need some sort of a barricade there. But that barricade is missing here, so technically you can enter it and use the footpath, but just visually it's not something that's apparent. So even here right now, I think it's a relatively calmer scene, but you still have to navigate through chaos. All of these vehicles are illegally parked here. I'm pretty sure there's a no parking sign somewhere plastered in this vicinity itself. And again, in the middle of the road is where there's a pushcart who's selling bangles and hair bands and small knickknacks like that, and they're just happily doing business in the middle of the road. So yeah, this is what that footpath looks like. So even when there is a footpath in India, most often, or at least more often than not, the footpath itself is a maze, and it's something that requires physical dexterity and skill to be able to traverse. Accessibility is something that completely falls out of the conversation. Unless you're completely able-bodied and also pretty good with your hand-eye coordination, I don't think you're gonna enjoy or even be able to make it through this maze. So yep, I finally made it to Chai Kings, but that experience, it's so uncomfortable and so harrowing that I ended up binging and buying a few unhealthy snacks just because I needed something to feel good about this whole experience. So technically, even the health benefit that someone might propose for just taking a small walk in your community to go, hey, walk, it's healthy. It wasn't really that healthy. I'm sure there was a whole lot of stress hormones that were flowing through my body. And to finish off, instead of having a green tea and maybe some sprouts, which are also available at this very Chai Kings, I think I ordered a few samosas and I ordered a very, very sugary drink. And so my call to action is I'd like to see someone walk through those circumstances that I have and not be able to succumb to a decision that seems to be completely within your control, which is to eat healthy food. Um, but yeah, that's my experience of just a 500-meter walk within the vicinity of Velachery in Chennai. I'll share the presentation later in case you wanted to read through the paragraphs of text that I've written, but yeah, that was the gist.
Gautam, I'll just have one question for you, and that is like, if you imagine yourself walking along the same road every day, will you take it as a chaos? Like, there are people who are commuting every day, like that small distance.
So that's what I said. I think I've developed the ability to accept that as that's just how it is. And I particularly am not someone who struggles with obstacle courses, let's say. So it's something that I like doing those kind of things. So I might even pay in some other location to just be able to do an obstacle course. But when I'm trying to just have an evening walk, for example, for peace of mind or to grab some chai, I don't expect anybody to have to deal with that much chaos. So although it is something that you get used to, I don't think the amount of stress that you experience because of it ever goes down. I'm sure we develop some sort of threshold for how much we can deal with, but I'm pretty sure there is all of that stress that's still occurring to the body.
Actually, in Calcutta, I'd say like the main city area, like the Gadihat area, it's a very poor shopping area. Now, during rush hour traffic, also there are people who will be playing chess. Like there are designated places, and somehow people they live happily. I see like fully focused playing chess or any sort of activities they're doing. So it's like I think like people they get used to this chaos. Like even in Kharagpur, I see even people they get used to like maybe they bump into each other, they say sorry, they just then they move forward. So that's how we are. I think we have become that, we have developed that sort of resilience to this culture, I'll say.
We have, unfortunately, I'd like to call that out as a problem, a cultural problem of ours, that we don't know how to and when to push back and ask for more. We're completely okay with being served absolutely nothing.
Maybe
So
the
I don't know. So this, for me also, this exercise was because I know that it's not nice to walk through that path, which is why I've never done it. But I've never been able to put a finger on why it is not nice. So exactly in what ways is it failing me as a user is something that I've never really thought about very consciously. And so this exercise was my attempt to try to do that, to say, instead of just saying it's bad or it needs to be better, what are the things that if we can identify, then you can also create some sort of a solution for the small observations that you might be able to finger point. So I realized in this walk that space wasn't the limiting factor, because I assumed that maybe it is, maybe there's not enough space to build a footpath, and that's why you have to kind of push and pull and struggle. But it's not. That route is huge. You could happily build like 3 footpaths at the side of the road, and each one for like 1 footpath for elderly people, one for cyclists. So I think it's not space, and that wasn't evident to me. I couldn't point that out until I started using this lens to look at the experience that I had. But yeah, I do hope to be able to call out those things and hope that more people can resonate with them, so that when there is some sort of an opportunity for us to use our power as citizens to create some sort of a change, that you know exactly what you're asking for instead of just better. So, rant over. Thank you so much for attending my TED Talk. Nancy, I'm going to hand it.
Thank you, Gautam. Actually, I was kind of trying to pull you guys into a presentation. As part of my thesis, I cannot actually do that, but as part of my thesis, I say that the individual's perspective. Sorry, it's a lot of floating. So individual's perspective and where they come from and what their background is, educational background is, it influences a lot on how they see their city living, how they see their city, their spaces, their surroundings. So wait. So and this is why I wanted you both to actually present, and that this was really interesting. I was having a lot of fun, because an architect who is seeing the beauty in everything, and a designer who can only see the oh my god, that is a lot of minus, you should have done a lot of pluses there. And I'm stuck in the middle of you both, actually, my mindset, and I was like, it was really enjoyable. So
it's like I personally feel as a planner, like since the city is always developing, we have these development plans coming up every 5 years, 10 years down the line. The perspective plans, whatever we say, like 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line, we want this thing. But it's very difficult since it's a very dynamic process. The population is sometimes going up, sometimes it's going down. Like this COVID thing also, it happened so suddenly, and suddenly everything changed, and again it's back to normal as if nothing happened 2 years back. So it's very how to say, there is no perfect plan.
Well, no,
There
yeah,
can be
that is there. That is
there can be
there
best.
in some places like what you showed, like Kharagpur. It was basically a very very tiny village that developed because of those campuses. So yeah,
Yeah.
that I can understand, and I've been in that exact same road that Gautam has shared. I've been there. I've tried to walk. I've given up walking within 2 seconds of stepping down the vehicle. No, drive me there, or I'm going home. I'm not going anywhere with you. So I've gotten on my vehicle and I drove literally 500 meters, the same distance in the other direction, but yeah, the same distance to the very same mall. So yeah, I can understand. It is a battle. It is a battle. It is really very entertaining to watch more than Bahubali, if you ask
You
me.
should come to Kolkata
Very
during Durga
entertaining.
Puja.
But
It will be more entertaining.
come on. But to actually be in the experience, it's terrifying. I cannot walk. To be in that particular experience, it is terrifying, but it is really entertaining to watch. And for Gautam, it should have been, amusing to document all of that. So thank you, Gautam, for taking that walk.
Thank you, Gautam.
Thank you for listening to my rant. But yeah, one last comment I wanted to leave with is a multiplication factor for the amount of concern that I have was evident to me when I did the same walk with my sister. So going alone, as I said, I'm pretty comfortable with a relatively high amount of chaos. But to see my sister going through that same environment, there's a lot more of a protective brother that came out to me as, oh shit, there's a lot more that I seem to be dealing with than even I realized. So yeah, it's literally just the hope is to try to dawn alternative perspectives and not just my own, to be able to see infrastructure or to see the built environment objectively, and to understand again what are the objective ways that you can start working towards making it slightly better for more people.
That's a lot of input, actually. Thank you so much.